And you mentioned that you've heard from people in the Pentagon, in the White House, about Hegseth and Pirro. I'm curious what it says to you as a journalist that so many people are now willing to talk to reporters about this on background. It seems like they're looking to protect themselves and put distance between themselves and this chaos. But what other things have you heard from
Well,
this mad week in Washington?
well, first of all, it shows me they have no huevos. They have no because everyone in DC
Yeah,
wants to talk. All you got to do is take them out to the Capitol Bar and grill after hours, have a drink with them. Somebody's going to talk because everybody
yeah,
wants to feel important. They're privately very brave, and that tells you that they know that they're screwed. They're publicly they still show fealty to Donald Trump because they don't want to get screwed by him. So
yeah.
between a rock and a hard place. And what I've heard this week is the wheels have fallen off the wagon. But we hear that often. But what we're hearing now is that the wheels have fallen off the wagon, and the midterms are definitely in trouble for Donald and the GOP. He claims he doesn't care. Well, that's a good thing because he's going to get it handed to him. And with the jobs report that just came out, and a reminder for everyone, this jobs report was came out showing what 23,000 fewer jobs.
23,000 lost
Yeah,
and downward revisions for the
and
last couple of
downward.
months too.
And here's the thing about it. If you remember when Donald Trump came into office, he fired everyone who gave him those numbers because he didn't
Yeah.
like the numbers he got. So these are people, they're giving him numbers that are his people. So how much worse is it really? So
Yeah.
you combine all that together, and as one of my sources in the White House who will still talk to me said earlier this week, he said, Brian, it's only going to get worse.
And it does seem like it is only getting worse. I mean, the second big theme of the week, the GOP is in free fall across the board. I mean, it's bad news for Republicans, even outside the White House, even if you're not Jeanine Pirro, who's indicting people over nothing. As you mentioned, that new jobs number came out 23,000 jobs lost in July, sharp downward revisions for the last couple of months as well. The economy now down to 1.5% growth, the slowest in years. Trump scraping 33% approval, the lowest of his presidency. And now a CNN poll shows that half of Republican voters say they no longer trust Trump and Republicans to fix the economy. But Donald Trump today said that he's not worried about this, that voters are mad at Republicans, not at Donald Trump, but that those mad voters are going to still vote Republican in November because they're going to be voting for their love of him. Brian, this is why Republicans on the Hill are terrified. Donald Trump does not seem to get how bad his situation is.
Donald Trump doesn't seem to get that very few people actually love him, if anyone. And he's counting on those. You notice as a president, here's something I haven't seen in 40 years of covering, the presidency, the rallies. Donald Trump doesn't
Yeah,
step out and look, he doesn't do press conferences, although they call them press conferences. What he does is press availability for in-house pool only. I will remind
yep,
everyone, all of those of us who are not in the pool can barely get in. Some of us can't even get into the building for press briefings, which they don't have much of anymore. The only people seeing Donald Trump, other than at rallies, are the travel or local pool. Same
yep.
15 reporters. He has a comfort level with them. He's happy with that. He doesn't do chopper talk anymore. He doesn't speak to reporters outside of the pool in the briefing room or have full blown news conferences. None of that because he's afraid. And then the
Yeah.
other part that you have to really take a look at in regards to your point is that Donald Trump thinks that he's loved because everything is staged for him. He shows up at these rallies. These are hand-picked crowds, usually white, always ready to boo the things that they think they should boo. The other day, he showed up in Las
Yeah.
Vegas, and the governor of Nevada showed up to give a moment of silence to a fallen police officer whose last name his first name was Austin, but his last name sounded, it sounded Arabic. And so immediately they started booing him and they go, no, we're not booing him. He felt it's just conditioned response. It's like Pavlov's dog. Those people
Yeah.
come out, they boo, they cheer, and because of that, Donald Trump thinks he's loved and that everything else is made up. And he's surrounded by morons who constantly tell him that he's up. No, they love you, Mr.
Yeah.
President. No, they love you, Mr. President. Now, I know some of the people who are the last people in that room, Susie Wiles, and of course, our buddy Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller tells Donald Trump that he's loved because Stephen Miller is getting what he wants out of Donald Trump. The racism, the narcissism, the rage towards immigrants and towards those who have less, that's all Stephen Miller. And as long as he gets what he wants, he'll continue to tell Donald Trump that he's well loved. And they're both
Yeah.
going to hell together.
But that's not playing well with actual people. I mean, Trump is behaving like he's 10 points up in the polls, but then he goes to Michigan and he tells GM auto workers who have had thousands of layoffs that they should be thanking him for how well the auto industry is going. And then we have a clip just today here, I think, of Donald Trump talking about gas prices and how it's actually, he's concerned they're getting too low. Let's play that clip.
Americans concerned about the economy and rising costs, the president dismissing that.
The economy is the greatest economy we've ever had by far. The economy aren't good. They're fake polls, just like fake writers.
The president again promising that as soon as the war ends, prices would go down on oil and gas. Then moments later saying this.
It's dropping, and we may have to send it up again. We may have to, you know what?
We may have to send gas prices up again. I mean, Trump also was talking about data centers and how he thinks Americans should love them because they're beautiful. It's almost like he's picking issues that voters hate him for and then rubbing it in their face, Brian.
Well, and you forgot the part of the speech. If you'll listen to these rallies and these speeches, Donald Trump will take commercial breaks. He'll weave them into his narrative. But he'll go, and by the way, buy a Dell computer because they're really great. They're better. No one does a better computer. So he takes commercial breaks. He ought to put on a NASCAR suit and just display all of his corporate sponsorship like, race car drivers do. I'm sure if it were a white jumpsuit with gold piping and epaulets, he'd actually do it. But Donald Trump is nothing if not a liar, nothing if not completely at odds with it. Look, Max, he's the guy who came out, what was it, last week or the week before, and said he doesn't want affordable housing. He wants housing prices to go up so that those who own homes, the rich, can get richer. Never mind the poor who want to buy a home, the American dream. He doesn't care about that. He cares about himself and making money. And he has cheered insider trading. He's actually cheered it, and he engages in it. He's made more stock trades as president than every other president combined, which was zero. And Donald Trump has traded in stock, thousands of times as president? So where is there's nothing in Donald Trump's policy that there isn't a dollar sign for him, not for you, not for me, but for him.
Well, this is something I wanted to ask you more about because, we know voters are furious about affordability, gas prices, the cost of groceries. Donald Trump says that's all a myth, right? Affordability is a hoax. He loves the inflation. But congressional Republicans who actually have to run for re-election, they could pass legislation that actually addresses prices and jobs in the economy, but they're not doing much of anything. I mean, why aren't Republicans acting to fix their bad numbers?
Well, there's two schools of thought in that. One is they've given up. Well, actually, there may be three. The second is that Donald Trump has convinced them that he's got the election fixed for the fall and not to worry. And three, they are worried but can't get enough people together to pass votes that would help the American people without threatening the loss, and this is probably more likely the case, without threatening the loss of the voters who support Donald Trump. Because remember, most of what's left of the Republican Party are those who support Donald Trump. Who got in? I mean, the Republicans created their own problems in Texas by dumping Cornyn and bringing out, the pedophile friend, Ken Paxton. So James Tallarico, a young Democrat who, by the way, has one of the worst communication staffs I've ever seen, he's got a real chance at winning because, everything is set up right for him. But I mean, Tallarico running against a real Republican would have zero chance. I mean, I show up at one of their press briefings. They didn't know where to put a microphone. They didn't know where to put the light. They didn't know where to put their candidate or how to set it up. So the Republicans are doing it to themselves. And if the Democrats can just keep from eating their own, they got a real shot here. So
Yeah.
the real problem with that Republican Party is because they are so subservient to Donald Trump. That's honestly, I think that's the real reason why they're not doing anything, because they're in with him all the way to the bitter end. And somewhere in the back of their, you know, empty heads, where that brainworm rattles that was given to them by RFK Jr., they have the belief that somehow they can fix it, and they'll stay in office this fall.